Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Off the Hook with Matty D. We are constantly talking about different places to fly fish and different species to go for. And my guest today is Captain Mike Rennie. I'm going to bring him in now. First of all, Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And one of the things I want to talk with you about is you have such a different season because you do trout, you do smallmouth, you do muskie, you do stripers. I mean, you pretty much have something for every time of the year.
Yes, sir. Yep. That's the game plan.
I guess good to stay employed that way, right?
Yeah, I mean, here in Virginia, you can fish year round. The only thing that changes is what you're, targeting just as the seasons change. And we have such a wide variety of that. Why not target multiple things?
Right. So right now, here we are sitting, in February, heading into March. Right now, I believe you're doing trout. Is that correct?
Yeah, trout and muskie. We've kind of laid off the trout a little bit just because of flow levels up there, but lake's back to good. We're getting good water in it, so it's setting us up perfect for spring. Muskie still's a little bit more accessible. Got a little iced out in January. Made for some real tough times, cancellation of trips and stuff. But we are sliding into that spring season, and I am looking forward to it.
And so let's talk a little bit about trout, and we'll also talk about muskie here. I saw you at an event up in, I think it was December, up at Escataba, and I thought it was really cool because you and Simone, good friend of yours, you
Yes, sir.
guys taught a class, explained to people like what fly fishing is about. Some of these people already knew, of course, but really how to target trout at different times of the year. That was part of the class, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was a big thing, especially, we did it in wintertime because a lot of anglers think it's too cold to fish, can't catch fish, and that's just simply not true. Tactics, location for the fish change, but that's about it. It's not the easiest of fishing, but if you have nice days and you want to get out and enjoy something, there's definitely opportunities out there.
And you had three women who I watched for a while as we went by, and I mean, they could fish and fish really well. And you were doing dead drifting with nymphs, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yep. That time of year, nymphing is a real big part of the game for these guys. Dry fly opportunities as they arise, but we're going to them. If they don't want to move a lot because that water's cold, we're bringing their food to them.
Right. And so when you're thinking of taking a client, you're really looking at the water temperature, the different waters, what might be hatching if we're warm enough. You're really getting into that, and you're teaching your clients those types of things as well. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's education is a big thing for me. I've always wanted to create a competent angler that not only can go out and find success on their own, but when they come back and fish with me, it maximizes their time. It's more about, building that skill set each and every time that it essentially becomes me rowing a boat and being like this fly, that seam right there for the trout or that bank for the bass, whichever it may be.
And first of all, I need to also back up, by the way, and thank you because I wasn't able to take the class because I had a shorter day, but you took the time, by the way, and I really appreciated this because you'd been there many times. I'd never been there, and you gave me a quick firsthand look, and you're like, hey, Matty, this is a good spot, and you pointed at like 7 spots, and we got back, and you said, what are you going to do? I go, I'm going to walk to the first spot and basically work my way down. You're like, good plan. You know how to fish. Have a good time. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah. I like to show you around. You were there and I can't not guide. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's all it is. It's something inside of me that's not going to allow an angler just to like go off on his own and have a tough day, whether I'm working with them directly or not. Like I said, I'm an open book when it comes to that.
And I appreciate that. I mean, it was really,
Well,
really nice of you. And it was it made me have a better experience, right? Rather than, I mean, look, I can read water, but when you have a little extra knowledge, it always helps.
100%. Yeah. I mean, even me, going to river systems in other states that I don't fish and stuff, I can get it done. But being with somebody or another guy that I book that just really breaks it down, just, makes the day so much better.
For sure.
So that's what I always like to put forward.
So Escataba is one of the places you fish, probably not as often as maybe, I think you do the Smith. What other rivers do you like to take clients to? What are some, I'm not asking for your honey holes by any means, but where are you guiding?
Trout wise, we do work on two private waters, Escataba and another one called Tomahawk Farms that we do. Both kind of have a little different feel. Escataba is great. It's got good fish, good water. Tomahawk Farms is a little different, a little bit more Western style fishing, more open through a cow field situation. But I like those places because they're great learning tools, especially getting new anglers out. Pretty agreeable fish. And then we fish the Jackson tailwater. That's primarily my main trout water. It's all wild browns and rainbow trout. Like the trout that you have up is out of the Jackson right there. So is that one. Yep, both of those fish were wild trout out of the Jackson. More technical of a fishery, but it's got some awesome fish in it. And then we do the Smith as well. I don't spend as much time on the Smith, and that's mainly just because of the drive. But I do have clients that come from North Carolina or specifically wanting to fish the Smith, or if you want like a multiple day thing, we'll go down there as well. But and then we also do some. We have park permits for some walk and wade brook trout stuff. Some with some small stream browns as well. So we kind of cover all levels of fly fishing here for trout in Virginia.
And when you're going for trout, you're primarily using 4, 5 weight, maybe a 6 weight rod. You're staying in kind of that mid level, correct?
Yeah, those are perfect. 4 and 5 weights are kind of my daily drivers. 6 weights, maybe if we're doing some streamer fishing, something like that. But that 4 and 5 weight rod is perfect, in my opinion. It's a very versatile tool that you can get a lot of things done with: dry fly, small streamers, nymph. So I like to have something that we can approach the day.
Right. And speaking of streamers, and I don't have any pictures of them, but this is also, we are in your muskie season as well. Bigger flies, bigger rods, but heck of a lot of fun, I'm sure.
Yeah. Muskie fishing it's probably the hardest fish you're ever going to target in fresh water. I never try to sound discouraging, but I like to make sure that people understand this is the hardest you're ever going to work to possibly see a fish. And it's one of those fish that if you're not 100% in it the whole entire time, that's your missed opportunity. I see it time and time again. But it's it's thrilling. It's awesome to watch, 35 to 50-inch fish just rocket up out of the water, chasing a fly, and just watching it follow and stay with you in a figure eight is heart pounding.
And so what is your season for muskie fishing? Is it now until spring, like April, or?
Yes, so we really start, targeting muskie again late fall once those water temperatures cool down. I particularly like the more winter seasons. Reason being is they really condense into these wintering holes, so it puts a lot of fish in specific locations. It keeps your angler from having to make lots of casts to lots of different stuff all day, and just keeps them in the game. Like I said, it's a very physical thing. You're throwing 11 weight rods, 13-inch wet gym socks with full sink lines and making figure eights at the boat every time. So, basically giving an angler a rest in between each hole allows them to recharge. So when they get to the next muskie spot, they're just not beat up, essentially. Right. So but we'll target them to about mid-March. Once that water temperature starts to hit the 50-degree range consistently, they'll spawn. That usually happens 10th, 17th time frame, and then we'll let them go. And then you can retarget them again in the spring. I'll occasionally, but that time of year, trout and spray pond smallmouth is kind of like really took off for me.
Right, and that's so again, just to kind of clarify, you will cast a lot for muskie, and you might get a chase or two for an entire day. I mean, it is that really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you have the day where you can move multiple fish, land multiple fish, but you're never having a 20-fish muskie day. Like, if you do, just never go muskie fishing again because it's never going to get better.
You hit the apex. Exactly.
Yeah. It's really the hunt, you know what I mean? There's two types of muskie anglers. There's ones that want to check it off the box, and there's ones that love self-punishment.
Right. Gotcha. All right. So you mentioned smallmouth. That's where I want to go next. This is a big time of year for you as we start to get out of March into April. Smallmouth fishing is like supreme here in Virginia, and you are all over it.
That is my favorite thing to fish for here in Virginia. It's our longest season. It has the most opportunities as far as water-wise, with them in it, like wild reproducing populations that you can just kind of target all over the state. So yeah, this is my magic hour.
And what are we using for rods here? 7, 8 weights?
So I would say 7 is kind of the sweet spot. Early in the season, I am throwing some 8 weights with the pre-spawn stuff, throwing a little bit larger flies, looking for those, mature females and males that are kind of feeling the change in light and temperatures happening that they're getting ready to spawn for. They tend to spawn. May is really when I really start to see them on beds pretty good. So we'll target them from March through about April, and then once again May, leave them alone, let them do their things. Come back in June. That early June is once again a little bit more streamer stuff, downsized. They're kind of getting back into play. And then July through September, I pretty much don't take a topwater bug off my rod all day. 7 weights all day.
They just love it. I mean, they come up and go, right? Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
It makes it so fun. And in so many different rivers in your area that you take clients to fish for these as well.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, James being my primary one, flows through Richmond. I'm located here in Scottsville, so I'm not too far down the road from you guys. I kind of fish a swath from Lynchburg down to about Bremo for me. Mm-hmm. Different floats depending on the water, what I'm going for, what the angler skill level is. And then we also fish the Maury and then the Roanoke as well for them. And then I do the Shenandoah too. Shenandoah for me is a little bit less on the smallmouth side. There's a lot of other guides that I like up there and try to stay out of their way as well. And just a lot of people. So, my experience is less people, the better the experience for the angler.
And I mean, I always think about, because my daughter goes to University of Lynchburg, and I'm always like, man, I should just come here and spend an hour with her and then jump over in the river and do some smallmouth fishing because it looks so beautiful. Gosh, yeah.
You should.
I just don't know that she would like that, but, it is what it is, right? So.
Sometimes they got to do what Dad wants,
That I like for sure. Yeah. All right, so so you take that month of May off because you don't want to disturb the fish when they're on their reds, right? And they're in their spawn mode. But that's also a great time for you as you're also doing some striper fishing. You also go down to Weldon, North Carolina. And I thought this was interesting as I bring up a couple of pictures here. You got into carp at the same time because of last year's cicada hatch. We were talking about this off the air.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was a really fun experience to have. That lower Roanoke got a really big emergence of those 13 and 17-year cicadas. The way that fishery works is you're kind of constantly chasing around a moving fish. So we were going down river, and a guy I work with, Matt Miles, we were both noticing that we were seeing lots of carp sharking and kind of waking on these fish. Luckily, he had some cicada flies with him, and we just gave anglers an opportunity of something that they're just not going to get to do often. Sight fishing to large carp that just don't quit and pull forever and make big runs. It'll put an 8-weight to a test.
I mean, I think it's great. Like, I've always wanted to do this. I mean, look, it may not be the prettiest looking fish and all, but I think it's awesome. I want to hire you just to go for these things.
We can make that happen.
I know we can.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that, you say pretty fish. A lot of people don't realize how smart those fish are. They have multiple lateral lines. They're very sensitive. Like, if you're walking and waiting for them, I used to spend some time with a guy named Kevin Morlock and Steve that guide up in Lake Michigan for them and teaching you how to walk to sight cast to these fish like you were red fishing in grass. So there's a lot of nuance and technique to really being a good carp angler. They are not an easy fish. And like I said, they don't build up lactic acid, so they'll pull forever. You can't beat that.
And so if you had me, where are we looking to target carp? Like, where are we going to?
So there's multiple ways. Kind of depends on water level and day, light angle. There's some smaller tributaries that I work that have good carp population. Shenandoah's got a fantastic carp population to it. Those rivers are really conducive to that because of the fact of water levels. And it's a sight fishing game. You're never blind casting really to a carp.
Right.
The presentation matters. They're essentially somewhat of a blind fish, and they get blinder the older as they are. So those lateral lines, the feel, that kind of stuff really plays a part in those fish. So it gives an angler an opportunity. You know, I always explained it. Hey, you're going to fish permit in Belize. A lot of the same skill sets apply to these fish.
Interesting.
Presentation matters, that kind of thing. So
Gotcha.
it's a good introduction into sight fishing sometimes.
Right. And then really you were down in Weldon because striper season comes all the way up. And these come out of Currituck Bay, is that correct? Or
they live in Albemarle Sound. So they travel, I believe it's 100. It's kind of like our bay fish. There's a resident population of them, but they all live in Albemarle Sound, travel 137 miles up the river to spawn, kind of below Lake Gaston. It's got the perfect kind of bottom for them. They're a broadcast spawner, so they want that kind of sandy bottom, and it's epic. You know, there's lots of fish. There's times when it looks like people are dunking milk jugs on the top of the river. There's so many fish spawning at certain times.
That's incredible. And so when are you starting to go down to Weldon? When are you chasing stripers?
So I chase stripers the last week of April to the first 2 weeks of May. I've stayed down there a little later the past 2 years. We had some different stages and runs just because of water levels. You know, here in Virginia, same in that kind of eastern section of North Carolina, we had some low water for the past 2 years. So it just allowed more fish to be there longer. Like I have a buddy that lives down there in Spring Hope, and he was catching them at the end of June still.
Wow. So. Incredible. And we're using sinking tip lines like we do in the James, using 7-8 weight rods.
Yep, we use 9-weight rods. We cast a 400 grain line. The reason we use the 9-weight is mainly just for the 400 grain line, so you're not overloading your rod. You want that fly down and rip it up off the bottom fast. You know, that's really their thing. They want that fly to be moving. And what we're doing is just targeting schools of them, you know, going over marking fish, seeing where they're at, and they'll move around a lot. We get a really fun experience because I run a jet boat, so I can get up high into these rocks that a lot of prop boats can't get to. Get some really good top water action first thing in the morning, late in the evening as well. So, you know, we kind of sell the trips as 6 a.m. till about 11:30. So you're fishing best to worst light. You know, midday, just take time off, go back around 2:30 and fish until dusk. So you're fishing from the worst light into the best light. So every angler gets shot at a good top water opportunity. So
you're getting kind of a double day in one day, meaning
we do 2 trips a day.
Oh, so it's okay. So it's 2 different clients.
2 different clients, yeah. I mean, we have people that do morning and evenings also, but you know, essentially having a morning trip, it just gives people that shot at, you know, the best fishing, and then missing the worst fishing of the day. That's kind of pointless. You know?
The time that I go is usually mid-afternoon, and you know, it's bright, sunny, and Simone drives by and goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I have no idea."
Low light. If you get a good overcast, rainy day, I've been there when bank to bank they were busting shad. You know, I actually was working with Matt. We were doing some presentations up in Orvis, Tyson, and Leesburg, and he had a video, actually, I've forgotten about, of a day I was fishing with him, and just, you couldn't like put the popper on the water without it just getting smoked.
Wow. I mean, so I've never been able to do a top water yet for a striper. Everything I've done is sinking tip, pulling clousers and stuff like that, which is fine, right? But I mean, different experience. It's got to be just wild.
Yeah, it's real fun, you know, especially when you get those windows of opportunity. Anything that gets to eat on top, I'm into.
So, okay, so we got North Carolina until maybe early June. Then we're back on smallmouth.
Yep.
And then muskie in fall.
Yep. Well, after the striper, I go back to trout. You know, that first part of April, we have a fantastic emergence on the Jackson of caddis up there a lot. That last week and those first 2 weeks of May, it's perfect timing because striper there gives me something that pulls a little bit harder, satisfies me a little bit. And then, you know, back to trout. June comes around, I'll fish trout till about mid-June, and then river traffic and water temperatures get to the point where I'm just not wanting to stress the fish out. And smallmouth solid till, you know, October, November, give or take on the weather.
And then when you get into November, you can go back to some trout because your water's cooler. And then, of course, as you said earlier, some muskie can come back in now too because they're starting to move.
Yeah, we have the trout stuff is always that spring fall strong time frame for me. We get a mixed bag on either end as far as smallmouth and trout. And then, you can fish the tailwater all the way through winter. We do. Like I said, this year I just didn't because they brought it down to 100 CFS and it's just a real grind. So I'm a client or I'm a guide that doesn't like taking your money. I'm here to give you the best experience possible. So if I see a situation where it's like, hey, bud, you may not have the skill set, and this is something we can work on, or the conditions are so unfavorable that I'm just literally taking your money for the day. I'd much rather reschedule,
Yep.
put you in a day that I feel like we can find success and you can learn something.
And I think that's really important too, because obviously the number one thing is you want the client to have a great time so that there's the potential of rebooking, or there's that positive review. Hey, I booked with Mike Rennie and, we had an awesome time and he taught me a couple of things and we got into fish, because that goes a long way, because he's going to say it to his buddies and it's mouth of word of mouth is probably the best.
That's 100% of my clientele. I mean, obviously I have an online presence, social media presence, but those work. But the reviews from clients having a good experience, not only does it give you really good clients, that your client is actually curating a clientele for you in a way.
Yep.
But it also it speaks more. You know what I mean? You can read something online, it's good, but when you speak to the angler, that's like, man, I really learned something, or I had a good day with him. It says a lot more to the next next person coming on.
You mentioned it a couple of times, Mike, and maybe I should mention this as well. You have kind of like a partner in crime, Matt Miles. What's your relationship with him?
So Matt, I was initially a client of his for years. He's, Orvis Endorsed Guide of 2023, just been a guide in Virginia for 20 plus years. Growing up fishing these waters, doing it forever, I've always put myself in a situation where I like to learn constantly. I think it's an important thing in this. Rivers change,
right.
Bug life changes, fisheries change. So you need to be dialed in and be out there and try new things. So Matt and I started working together. I started doing 2 boat trips for him, things like that. And it became a really tight relationship where, me and him, if I know I needed another smallmouth guide, that's the person I'm going to send it to. If he was going to have somebody call him, then he couldn't do it. He's the only person I'm going to recommend.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because you need that, because sometimes you're booked and people are looking to get out, or maybe because you can put 2 guys on your boat, but maybe I got 4 guys, right? So you're like, hey, let me give a guy my mat, and we could see how that all works.
Yeah, I mean, same relationship with Reed and Simone. It's great, like the shad stuff. It's like, hey, they know that stuff great. Go fish with them. I can take a boat down there, but they know what they're doing.
Right.
I'll figure it out, but they'll put you there. The redfish stuff. I don't touch that. I like red fishing. I know about red fishing, but if I want to go see redfish, I'm calling Simone.
I did the same thing. He made a lot of fun of me the first time we went out. Second time was a lot better.
Yeah, it means he likes you.
Yeah, I know. That's what he said too. He said, "I'm not treating you like a client. I'm treating you like a friend." I'm like, "Uh-oh, I know what that means."
It's a true statement. It's the ones that you can be like, "Come on, man,
right.
You know how to make that cast better."
Yeah,
and give them a little ribbon is. It means we just care more. We feel more comfortable.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
When we're bummed, it's because, man, you can do that.
Exactly. I can take it. My skin is pretty thick, that's for sure.
Yeah, you gotta have thick skin. Yeah,
for sure. Hey, you mentioned your online presence here, and it's, of course, Blue Mountain Drift, flyfishing.com. Easy way to get in touch with you. There's a full contact here. By the way, I love this website. I love the opening videos that you have here. I love the shots. I just think this is really well done, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Really
I spent a lot of time and money on it, so it's good to hear.
Talks about the different waters that you fish in here. As you mentioned, the James, the Stanton, Jackson, for some trout fishing. Maury River, Smith, Shenandoah, where I'm going to grab you for carp. I think that's what we're doing this summer. You tell me when. Perfect. We're going to make that happen. And, of course, the contact information right there. Fill it out. Yep. And I also noticed you had a newsletter, too, so people can sign up for that as well.
Yep. The newsletter is great because, it's either at last-minute openings I might have or just upcoming seasons. I like to prep people. It's important to remind people of you should go out and have some fun sometimes. And it's a good way for that busy life person to be like, oh, yeah, I've been thinking about this, and kind of have a one-click button to then come over and book a trip and have a good day.
And if you want to drool, just open the gallery up and look at the pictures over the past couple of years. I mean, incredibly great stuff here for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Trip pricing, all the packages, the different types you have in here as well, so people know what they're looking for, full days, half days. So it depends on the fish. You can do different types of things.
Yeah, exactly. Full day. We always recommend a full day. Some beginners like to do the half day because they think it's like, well, maybe I'll see if I like it. Problem is, by the time they figure it out, the trip's over with. So going that full day is always nice. But we do offer half day trips. No problem for if you got a time crunch and just want to go out real quick, couple hours, catch some fish, we can do that for you.
Gotcha. And how far out should people be contacting you, Mike, to book different trips? Let's say if I'm looking at, stripers right now.
Mm-hmm. Stripers, I would say if you're looking at that, get in. I got a couple days left, really. And then smallmouth stuff, that's it. I mean, I'm taking bookings in September. Like I have clients that kind of book the same year every year, so I know it's coming. But I would say a month, 2 months out. The more planning you have, the better we have.
Gotcha, right, because, and as you said, if the rivers are blown out or whatever, you'll reschedule. So it's not like you're losing the money at that point, right?
No, and, the good thing about having multiple rivers to fish is, let's say we get a lot of rain down here. We were planning to fish in the Scottsville area. I know that the rockfish is high, so everything on that float is going to be dirty. Mm-hmm. We have places to jump around. I always take into consideration where the angler's coming from, their drive, if they're staying in a place, but also with the expectations. It's like, I can't tell you the day that we book in May when you're fishing in August where we're going to be fishing. I kind of give you a general area, but keep people in the loop because, like I said, you get blown out, we got other places we can go. Yeah. I'll get you out there if we can. If not, we'll reschedule.
Now, I just want to make sure you don't blame me like Simone blames me for blowing out rivers, do you? I mean, I get that all the time.
No, I don't know you well enough, but it could be. I'm losing some trips this week because of this snow, so it could be your fault, Matt.
Let me tell you something. Between the snow that you all just got and the fact that we're going to get buckets of rain today, buckets of rain on Saturday, I mean, every river is going to be heavily blown out, and I'll apologize to you right now. Sorry about that.
I apology accepted. I won't hold it against you. I
appreciate that. Hey, Mike, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate the time. And
yes, sir.
Just tell me again, when do we want to chase carp? I want to book that with you. I certainly do. I
would say that later June time frame, you should have perfect water levels and clarity and warmth. Those carp are really starting to move into some flats and stuff like that, and really good carp fishing.
All right. So, look for me to email you, and we're going to set that up. I truly mean it because I want to try it. I've never tried it, and it looks so much fun.
I'm excited. Like I said, it's a hard sell for anglers, and they just don't get it. And when they do, then they're hooked. So you'll love it. Trust me. You're the guy for it.
And I'm looking forward to the challenge. I like really getting in there. So, and you're allowed to make fun of me too when I miss everything.
You're allowed to make fun of me also. How about that?
Mike, I want to thank you again for joining us today on Off the Hook with Matty D.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. And again, if you're looking to book Mike Rennie, easily do that by heading over to his website. It's BlueMountainFlyFishing.com. You can find out about trip pricing. Of course, he is a USCG licensed fishing guide for smallmouth, muskie, and trout. And again, also don't forget about stripers in Weldon, North Carolina, and of course, carp, like I'm going to do. Thanks for joining us again for another edition of Off the Hook with Matty D. We will see you next time. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Off the Hook with Matty D.